world. This is DC.
And it's your girl, Tomise, and welcome to our show, Shaking Up the Algorithm.
And today's show on with me and Mrs. Okay, the voice is gone, but God is still good.
Yes, spare us all, please. Spare us all.
Oh, you got jokes already, but it's cool. It's all good. Okay, today is a serious subject matter. Today we're talking about Black mental health.
Yes.
In lieu of the dancer Twitch, who just passed and took his life the other day or a few days ago, we're going to talk about that real heavy today. So we go unlock some demons. We go free ourselves. We go go into our inner child. We go do all that. And what else we go do?
Well, we're going to have fun doing it.
We are.
That's what we do. That's what
in
we do. In
Jesus' lane, because we both know Jesus. Okay. So today we're going to talk about Black mental health. We're going to talk about the inner child. We're going to talk about, being bullied. We're going to talk about the have and the have-nots. And we go let y'all know all about all these things we're talking about later on or as we talk about them. But we're going to start with, childhood. And how we were raised, and how we were loved, and taking on things that we were not ready for. Like earlier, me and you talked about the subject matter of the inner child.
Correct.
And one of the things that I wrote down about one of the real devastating things of my childhood was when I had to take care of my grandfather before he passed. I had to wipe his butt. I had to feed him. I had to bathe him. And I know it was very humbling for him because he couldn't imagine me, his grandson, taking care of him. But it was something I wasn't ready for. I was like 16, 17, around that age, doing that. Right. And I was calibrated to an age or a maturity that I wasn't ready for. So it really forced me to really grow up really quick. And as an adult, I have this mindset to look, there's a time for play and there's a time to be serious.
Correct.
And I have adopted that behavior into my adulthood. So what do you feel about being in the situation of being adult, or what has happened to you as a child that it forced you to be an adult before your time?
Okay, well, I've had a similar experience as well with that. And actually, I was around about 8, believe it or not.
Oh, wow.
My sister was born when I was 8.
Okay.
And my mom suffered from an addiction to drugs and alcohol. And during that time, she was in and out of the house. Sometimes it was late at night. And I would be forced to take care of my sister. If there weren't, if she didn't have formula or something like that, I had to improvise and make her sugar water so she could go to bed at night, knowing I had to go to school the next day. So I was like in the 3rd grade. So that really prompted me to step into a whole different adult role, which actually shifted the dynamics of my mother and I.
So let me ask you. So I'm sorry to cut you off. So let me ask you a question.
Go ahead.
So when you became a mother for the first time, how did that affect you being a mother in real time, real life at that time?
It didn't really affect me at all. I felt like I was already in my natural element.
Gotcha.
With, having 3 siblings under me and basically being a caretaker to all of them some way. Having a child of my own wasn't any different. I knew the routine. Right. I knew what I needed to do. Right. The difference, I think, for me was being able to really attach the emotion to it. The job itself of being a mother was easy, but creating the bond was different because these are not my siblings. This was mine. This was my child. This was who I brought forth to the world. So it was a different type of love that I had to show.
Did you ever suffer from postpartum? Did you ever deal with that part of it?
I didn't the first time. I did with my second daughter. That was devastating. I mean, that was devastating. But again, that was due to a series of events. And I'll just be transparent here.
Okay.
During that time, like I said, I had already had one child.
Right.
I had her when I was 21, going on 22. So here it is, 3 years later, I'm pregnant again, you know, and I was still staying with my grandmother. You know, I didn't have a place of my own or anything. And, well, I did have a place of my own. And then I made some foolish decisions and I gave up my place, moved in with this guy, got pregnant, and had to come back home.
Gotcha.
So, of course, my grandmother was like, okay. You know what I mean? Here we doing this again.
Well, let me ask you a question. With the guy that you moved into, you think that had anything to do with, you know, you being an 8-year-old taking care of your little sister and how you dealt with things? And did you know anything about dealing with men and relationships, or were you just, you know, foolishly in love at the time? You were naive at the time.
I would definitely say that had something to do with it. Because during my formative years, I really didn't know what a relationship looked like. So I had to kind of learn that as I went along. So whatever mistakes I made or, you know, whatever, that was on me. I didn't have a template. I didn't have a model. I didn't have guidance in that way. Yes, my grandparents, you know, I lived with them. They were married, but that was the most unhealthy marriage I've ever seen. You know what I mean? I wouldn't even use that as a healthy example. So I didn't have one. So I had to create my own, the best way I knew how. And in that situation, I thought it was good for a while.
Now, do you think you messed with the guy because you wanted to get out of that home, get out of that environment?
No, because I had my own place.
Okay.
That's the thing. I had my own place when I met him. It wasn't the best environment, but it was mine. You know what I mean? He was older.
Okay.
He offered what I thought was a bit of wisdom and experience that I didn't have. He seemed like he had it all together, you know, all the glitz and glamour and all that good stuff. And it was all a lie. You know, I figured that out. It was all a lie.
Right.
But by that time, I was already in too deep. You know, so once I moved back, and I'll never forget the day I actually delivered my daughter. My grandmother came to the hospital, and she said, "Oh, well, I talked to the hospital administrator, and I told him you can't come back to my house." And I said, "Okay." You know, not thinking the seriousness of what she was saying. And she was like, "Yeah, so they gonna help you find somewhere else to go." And I'm like, "Okay."
And you in the hospital?
I'm in the hospital. And I'm like,
child number two. This child number two.
Child number two. And I'm like, okay. You know, because in my mind, I'm thinking, oh, that just means she's going to give me my 6 weeks. You know, I got time to work this out. No, she meant as soon as I was discharged. I had 2 days. 2 days
so what
to
happened?
find somewhere to go.
So the world want to know. I want to know. I'm curious. What happened?
Well, actually, what had happened was I ended up, well, as soon as she left, the hospital administrator came into my room and was like, we talked to your grandmother and she said this. And I said, wait a minute, she's serious? Like, I'm not going to get 6 weeks? Like, they were like, no, she wants you to find somewhere to go once you're discharged. And I'm like, what? You know, she's like, well, do you know anybody? Do you have anywhere to go? And I'm like, hell no, I ain't got nowhere to go. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I have a 3-year-old and now I have an infant. Where am I going to go? You know, I don't have any money to move anywhere, you know. So I happened to call a girlfriend of mine and I was telling her what was going on. And I'd known her since elementary school. And she was like, well, Shawan, she was like, I told my mom about you. And my mom was like, just tell her and the kids to come over here. And I went to her house. And I remember going, and everybody was just on and on over my daughter. She was beautiful. I mean, just like this beautiful little China doll. And I had no desire at all. It's like
now, it's funny you say that the way you say it, because normally in situations like that, that's where we get resentful, we get angry, we get frustrated, we get very untrusting, because if our own family can do that, who is anybody else?
Correct.
You know, whether your friend's mom opened their doors to you or not, you know, in the back of your mind, you have that thing to where, well, the what ifs, you know what I'm saying? Right. And to me, you know, me and you talked about that a lot, and I was talking about anxiety, and I was talking about anxiety came when I was being bullied, you know, as a young kid. Now, my brother, everybody feared him, but my brother wasn't around me 24/7. So they messed with me because they feared my brother. And they was like, you tell your brother, we're going to beat you up again. Da, da, da. Right. So my mother had me and my brother throw blows. And I remember that experience gave me what I needed to be able to not be bullied again. But yet, with that, I still have anxiety even to this day about worrying, like, what if, and what if that don't happen? What if that don't happen? It from that experience, those experiences, it got me that. So, what do you think from your childhood that you still struggle with today from your childhood that you brought into your adulthood?
I know one of the things that I had to deal with was body image. And learning how to just love the skin that I'm in. I had been told many times that I was fat, that there was something wrong with me, you know, being the size that I was, or that certain clothes didn't look right, so I had to fix it up, or I had to do, you know, I had to always do something to alter how I looked. So as I got older, that was a big thing for me. You know, it was, I had to make sure everything was meticulous. Like this had to go with this and this had to go with that. Or, you know, I would double check if I had an extra roll showing or something. I had to get, you know, go get the proper undergarments, you know, that type of thing, because
take that roll down, baby. Take it. Roll tide. Roll tide, Alabama. Take that roll down.
You know, so I had to, you know, put more emphasis into being more observant of what other people thought. You know what I mean? So I was always, I was raised under that notion of you got to worry about what other people think. It matters what other people
and you know
think.
what? You know what? I'm glad you brought that up. I was going to say something about that. Why do you think, I mean, what is your opinion of why does the world value what other people think? Like, what is the thing about that people lose their power by giving it to somebody else, by telling them, you know, or giving them it's almost like people blue book us.
Correct.
You know, just metaphorically speaking. Like, okay, well, you're this and you're that and you're this and you can't do this and you're only going to get this because you look like this. And like, why do we give people that much power to blue book us and tell us, you know, make us aware of what our value is? Like, why do we do that?
Well, I mean, I have my own theory to that. Theory to that, and that might be a whole other rabbit hole of a discussion to go into. But I do believe that has a systematic slavery stigma attached to it, because it is something that is definitely represented in the African American community as a whole. And because we were put into positions where we were forced and enforced by others, it has, trickled down in our generations as far as how we interact with our families, how we value ourselves. Right. It's almost as if we operate and still move as if we have to be accepted by somebody else in order to actually be adequate within ourselves. So it really comes down to breaking away from that, and I guess you could say ending that generational pattern, because it is something that occurs a lot. But it's systematic. It goes from one generation to the next. And it takes that one bold person in the family to say, enough is enough. I feel like I'm that person in my family. There are certain things that I just don't accept. There are certain things now that I question. I guess that's why I was always considered like the black sheep, because I went against the grain. You know what I mean? I didn't follow the protocol, so to speak. I didn't follow the cookie cutter mold that everyone else lived by. It was like I always felt like there was something more, or there was something greater, or, it can't be this way. Like we can create our own plan. You know what I mean? So I guess that's made me different. But at the same time, I feel like it has afforded me now as a mother a better opportunity to provide to my children.
How important is it for us to deal with our inner child in order for us to maximize who we are as adults?
Well, one thing I've had to learn, even during my spiritual journey, focusing on your inner child, especially as an adult. You know what I mean? I've fully matriculated as a woman at this point. Got grown kids, and it's like now I have to revert back to my childhood experiences and almost like to mimic somewhat those same experiences where I'm an adult now. I can't think like that anymore. Right. You know what I mean? It's almost difficult to go back to that nature. But by doing so, or even attempting, it helps you to understand and realize how a lot of the things that you're doing as an adult has become, second nature, so to speak. By actually, really reflecting on some of those situations that I experienced as a child, especially the hurtful moments. Those hurtful moments, it could have seemed small, you know what I mean, to someone else. But when you, for instance, like I said, I was constantly told, my grandmother used to say all the time, you got a fat ass. You know what I'm saying? Or you just fat. You know what I'm saying? Like, or your legs too fat. Something like that. But it's like when you're constantly hearing that, as a child, you're taking that in. It is now becoming a part of you. You know what I'm saying? And for me, that stuck with me throughout my entire adult life. I was always conscious about how I looked. Even when it came down to relationships, men would be like, "Oh, you nice looking," or you stacked nice, and I'm just like, "No, I'm not. I'm fat." You know what I mean? Because that was ingrained in me. You know what I'm saying? And because I really didn't know how to love me, because I was still setting a standard upon someone else's beliefs, right? So when I really got to the point where, I felt like I needed to do this for me, it was not an easy experience. It was definitely difficult, because I had gone through life and just moving, that I had pushed all of that stuff under the rug. You know what I mean? And it was like, now I had to uncover this and look at all of this shit sitting there. And I'm like, now I got to clean it up. You know what I'm saying? And it's not easy, but it was so rewarding for me to go through. Looking back, Like, it was the best decision I ever made. It allowed me to tap back into those moments. It allowed me to grieve for little Shawan. You know what I'm saying? And to really take notice of her pain and say, you know what, it's okay. You know what I mean? What you're dealing with right now, yes, it is difficult, but you're gonna live past it. You know what I'm saying?
So. Being a t-shirt maker extraordinaire, like what I have right now. But anyway, I think, and I when I first started doing t-shirts, I made a shirt that I'm gonna make one for me and you. We have to wear this for one of our shows. Okay. A lot, besides our shaking up the algorithm shirts that we're gonna have.
Correct.
But it's a shirt that I made called, and it said self-love subscriber. Okay. And I think that is very important to have shirts like that, because a lot of people, if they realized that how valuable loving themselves is, you wouldn't be so receptive to take on the burden of something that somebody else gave you. Like, correct, you're too fat, you're too this, you're dumb, you're slow, you're this, and you have ADD, you have this. It's amazing how people can say what you have and you accept it.
That's true. That's true.
And you're not even you ain't know what the hell it is. Oh yeah, you're right. You probably right. Yeah, that's what I got. Yeah, I got a bowler and chimes. What the hell is that? so self-love is almost like a pop-up blocker. Mm-hmm. It says, hey, no, you can't tell me what I am. I know what I am. Right. But that comes with having a relationship with Christ too. That's a whole nother show, but that comes with having that. That is vital. Another thing I want to talk about that is going to be my coin phrase that I'm going to say is, and we talked about this, and this is called the have and the have-nots. And we done talked about this a few times. Mm-hmm. And me and you talked about this a few days ago about being appreciative and being blessed about what you have. Correct. And not be concerned about what you don't have, because what you don't have can mess you up. And if what you don't have is louder than what you have, then you create the anxiety, you create the depression, you create all these other things, these underlying things that happen because you're concerned with the have-nots rather than the haves. So speak on that a little bit.
I mean, well, and that's true, but it's almost as if we have certain goals and certain things that we want to attain, right? Mm-hmm. So it's like, where is your level of success? Where's the breaking point? What's the tier? Mm. Because it's like you'll constantly have these goals and you say to yourself, oh, well, I'll be happy when I get this. Mm-hmm. But then you get that and it's still something else. Oh, I'll be happy when I get this. Mm-hmm. Or I'll be happy when I make 6 figures. Then you make the 6 figures. Oh, well, I'll be happy when I make millions. Mm-hmm. Like, when does it stop? You know what I mean? When are you able to really find the joy in whatever it is that you have, or wherever level you are at? You know what I mean? It's almost as if we're constantly searching for the next best thing, opposed to actually being thankful and grateful for the little or more or much that we have. It doesn't.
And you know what? That's what we were talking about regarding Twitch. About, he on the Ellen DeGeneres show, he's making $1 million a year. He's worth $5 million. He got a beautiful family, all these things going. And even though it ended in 2022, which we thought that may have caused it or triggered it, but he had other projects going on even after that. So we're trying to figure out, what was it being in a blessed situation, circumstances like that would allow you to go to that extreme and say, hey, I want to end it. Right. And it's just like you said, it's like people are not satisfied with the haves and they're more concerned with the have-nots. And when you allow the have-nots to be more than the haves, that's when you incur all of these situations, these problems, these underlying things that happen, right? Right. What do you think about that?
And yes, that is true, but that also goes to show you again, and we were discussing this, it's when you know someone, even if they're not, abundantly famous as he was. But you have someone that's in your family that you know they took a death of a loved one really hard, or they lost their job, or you know, anything of that nature. Those can be triggers for people, and they become recluse. They become intrusive, introspective, so to speak, and they don't say necessarily how they're feeling. You know, they've made this image up for themselves, and they continue to walk through this facade to say, okay, no, I'm good. But really they're not. You know what I mean? As loved ones, as friends, it's imperative that we reach out to the people that's in our circle, or reach out to our loved ones just to check on them. Like, how you doing? You know, how's everything going? You know, because that opens the door for them to be able to trust enough to be able to say, hey, well, I'm not doing good today. Or, you know what I mean? Because we'll never know. And like with this young man, he is now gone. You know, but we will never know what he was thinking before he took his life. You know what I mean? Or what he was dealing with, because no one took the time to ask. It's imperative that we ask. We got to look out for our own.
And that goes to what we were talking about earlier about being transparent, you know, being open, you know, exposing things. And don't worry about what people think, you know, and just because that, you know, exposure saves lives. And that's
but sidebar to that as well, it's not even about being transparent. It's being open with someone that you feel will trust what you have to say.
Okay.
Everyone is not as trusting. You have a lot of judgmental people, you know, things of that nature. But when you create a trusting, safe environment, that allows people the opportunity to be able to unpack their baggage.
Okay, well, let me be the advocate a little bit. Now, he had a wife, loving wife, kids. You know, he had a nice. You know, he had Ellen DeGeneres. You know, a lot of professionals have been on her show. He got all these reasons. He got access to a lot of resources. So he could have been in a situation where he could have been helped. So let's say that, okay, he did that. Like, he got the help he needed, and he trusted his environment, you know, his little circle. But after that, you know, being exposed after them learning of that, you know, you got to deal with a whole nother aspect of the world. That may be his inner circle, but you still got to deal with world, the media. What if people look at him crazy and they ain't gonna give him no work? Or what if he worried about underlying things about the have-nots more than the haves, and these are these incurring problems and issues that he's having. Go ahead.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, because that also brings to mind another famous entertainer that kind of went through the same thing. Now, if you can remember, I would say this is about maybe 10 years back, Kirk Franklin came out talking about how he was, you know, into pornography.
Right? I remember that.
That. Now, think about how detrimental that was to his career, to even openly admitting something like that.
Okay,
but what did it do?
It did. It helped him. But
it did help.
But you gotta understand, Kirk Franklin knows the Lord still. Like he still knows.
But no. People can still know the Lord and still fall.
True.
You know what I'm saying?
But he still with all that, because most people wouldn't have done that. Especially being in his situation. But he still had unction enough and a relationship enough to know to say, okay, God, even if they don't accept it, as long as you do and I come to you, I'm going to be all right. I can get
But that's like saying because he knew God that he wasn't going to suffer from depression. And that's not true, because he did.
Oh, that's a good one. Oh, I like that. That's a good comeback.
Okay.
You're right.
So you can't say that. You can't say that.
Okay,
you know what I mean? But at the same time, like I said, he had a supportive network. He had people that questioned and asked those questions. Hey, my brother, are you all right? Like, talk to me. You know what I mean?
He probably did, but he still knew that exposure was going to allow him to be ridiculed. But he didn't care about that. But he didn't care about that.
And I understand that. But there again, sometimes it's a matter of life and death by even the people that you have surrounded by.
Facts. I agree with that.
You know what I mean?
I agree with
and
that.
He actually had people that were like-minded of the same faith, and that were able to pull him up when he was falling short. You know what I'm saying? This man might not have had that. Yes, you can have faith all day long, but at the same time, we grow weak. We grow weary sometimes, and we question God. You know what I mean? When we're going through certain situations, if you don't have that support around you, it can be detrimental.
But my thing is this. Now, I'm going to say something probably off kilter, but I'm going to say it because this is what I'm thinking. I got a wife, and I'm going through. If I can't tell her that, the hell am I with you for?
And that's true.
I'm going to keep it 100.
That's
like
true.
My thing is, if that's God's will for me to get married again, if that is in my cards and that happens,
right,
nigga, I'm gonna tell you everything. If you can't handle that,
right,
piece up, A-Town down, I'm out. For real. You know what? T.D. Jakes said something I never forget in a sermon. T.D. Jakes said this, and it was so empowering when he said it. He said, he was talking about emotions. Emotions on. He said, men are terrified that if they tell the woman everything they feel, will you still be there?
Right. You're right.
This is the grown folk part of the conversation.
That's true.
Now, a lot of men are introverted and don't say a lot of this stuff because they feel like it ain't a thing about what they feel like you're gonna think. It's what we feel like. Are you gonna be there? Or you gonna still be there?
Correct.
And the sad thing about it is now is everything is gender based. Okay, well, so you talk like that. We were around a lot of women. We around. Everybody's talking about if you dress a certain way, you wave your hands a certain way, your voice is different. Damn it, your glasses on wrong. You got motherfucking blonde hair. You make your beard pink and shit. You know what I'm saying? Everything is either you're gay or you ain't. It's either
right.
And a man, whether he is or not, that ain't thing. But a man don't like his. I'm going to say I'm real grown. A man don't like his manhood challenged. If he is gay, nigga, let me come out and say that. If that's what he is, you know what I'm saying?
So right.
Don't provoke my shit.
Right, right.
And that's for men that are gay. I ain't got nothing against none of that. But I'm just saying, men are that way across the board. Right. And the world we live in is so judgmental of everything.
Correct.
Churches are bad because of that.
Correct.
Churches say this and say that. They love this and love that. But love, the last time I checked, love don't have stipulations.
It does not.
Love is not at the mercy of likes to feel validated.
It is not.
So my thing is that if you love, don't love and judge. That's an oxymoron.
Correct.
Love, just love.
And you're right. You're absolutely right about that. But that also, I feel like that's also an issue because it is perceived for men to be the pillar of strength in a relationship. So to see a man broken,
not today, because women are bossing up,
and that's true, and that's true.
Women got the draws now.
Career-wise, I believe women are more dominant.
You can grunt and groan about
No, I feel like
women. Go ahead.
Career-wise, women are becoming more dominant than men. Where at one time it was the male aspect. But generally, men are looked at as being the pillars of strength. You are considered the naturally dominated force.
You know what? I'm gonna challenge that because
I ain't finished it though.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, man. Go ahead.
I mean, so with that aspect, it's like to see a man that may be going through something or in your instance that you use, a husband has a wife, and if he can't talk to her, then it's an issue. Now, that is absolutely true. But when you have a prideful man, he feels as if he's going to be in a position to handle and manage things. So he may not have the decency of saying, I'm going to reach out to somebody for help.
I'll give you that.
You know what I mean? Sometimes your ego and your pride can get in the way of your well-being.
I agree with that. Now, what I was going to say, and I apologize. I gave up cussing 2 days ago, so you got to bear with me.
Yeah,
Okay, anyway, you have women that challenge men being men.
Definitely.
Like, are you serious? So my thing is that the minute I see a woman with that type of talk, that lets me know where your nuts are. Right there. Oh, you got some nuts. Okay. So I'm not going to go against all of that. You know what I'm saying? Right. And I know who I am. Like, I'm not gonna a real man ain't gonna have to challenge his manhood with nobody. Period. Right. He knows who he is. He walks in such a way that we know who the hell he is. He don't need none of that back and forth. And most men don't like confrontation.
Correct.
You got women talk about something that happened at the job between 5 different people.
Right.
For what? You want the gospels of the conversation, like Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. You want all that. You want 5 different opinions. Okay, cool. So I mean, and it's sad, but it's so. And I think if I were to bring this more to a conclusion of this show, is I want people to understand the power of love and the power of prayer and the power of faith. Love can change. Love, and the Bible says love covers a multitude of sin.
It does.
You know what I'm saying? Prayer changes things.
It does.
So, and people think that just talking about it ain't gonna change nothing, and people don't understand the power of that. And that's what we need to do to change the narrative of what's going on now. That would change so much stuff.
Right. It would. It definitely would. We've got to definitely go inward and not be so consumed by what's surrounding us or what the world thinks, but to be able to be truthful and walk in our own love and walk our own race. I mean, run our own race and not be worried about, measuring up to someone else or, competing with someone else's standards. We set our own standard.
Correct. So if you were to bring this amazing Shaking Up the Algorithm show to a close, what would be your closing statements or concerns that the people definitely need to hear and take with them?
Well, I feel like, again, the value and importance of self-love is detrimental to us, each and every person. You have to get to a point where you love yourself enough so that you are no longer bound by other people's perceptions and other people's opinions of you. And for me, in closing, I would just say, love is optional, but grace is free. And when you're able to actually love unconditionally and know what that means, grace will definitely follow you.
So my ending statement of this amazing show with my amazing, gorgeous co-host is, this is going to be my phrase that pays. I'm probably going to make shirts with this.
Oh, okay.
You really want to shake up the algorithms of life. This is what you need to do. Concentrate on the haves more than the have-nots. I dare you to do it. Until then, in passing, another amazing show, Shaking Up the Algorithm with my beautiful host. Peace.
Peace, y'all.
Showstar.